A wife disappears from her home in the middle of the night. Her purse, her phone, and her personal belongings are left behind. Her family is terrified, but her husband seems strangely calm. Years pass with no body, no goodbye, and no clear answers. Then investigators uncover a secret affair, a trail of lies, and a murder case where the victim was never found. Get locked in. This is Story Time. Real stories only. Victoria Prokopovitz was a mother, a wife, and a woman whose life should have never been reduced to a mystery. In April of 2013, Victoria disappeared from her home in Pittsfield, Wisconsin. According to reports, she was last seen at the home she shared with her husband, James Prokopovitz. By the next morning, she was gone. But what made this case so disturbing was what she left behind. Her purse was still there. Her phone was still there. Her personal belongings were still inside the home. For a woman to disappear without the things most people would naturally take with them, her family immediately knew something was wrong. Victoria's children were worried. They wanted answers. They wanted their mother found. But as the investigation began, attention slowly turned toward the person closest to her, her husband, James. James told investigators that Victoria had walked away before. He also suggested she struggled with depression. But for Victoria's family, that explanation did not feel complete. They did not believe their mother would simply vanish and leave them with no answers. Searches were conducted. Investigators looked for clues. Family members held on to hope. But days turned into weeks, weeks turned into months, and months turned into years. Victoria was never found. And that is what made this case so difficult. There was no body, no crime scene that clearly explained what happened, no final place where her family could go to mourn, just unanswered questions and a silence that grew heavier with time. But then, the case started to shift. Investigators discovered that James had been involved with another woman named Kathy Friday. According to prosecutors, this relationship was not just a side detail. They believed it gave James a motive. The story prosecutors told was this: James wanted to move on with Kathy, and Victoria was in the way. Now, in cases like this, motive matters. But motive alone is not enough. Investigators still had to build a case without Victoria's body. That meant they had to look closely at behavior, timelines, statements, and anything that did not add up. And according to prosecutors, there were lies. James and Kathy were accused of not being truthful about their relationship. Investigators believed the truth about when the relationship began and how close they were mattered because it showed what James may have been trying to hide. Before we continue, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to Story Time. Drop your thoughts below. Do you believe a person can be convicted in a murder case when the victim's body has never been found? Your comments help push these stories out so more people can hear about cases like Victoria's. As the years went on, Victoria's family continued living in limbo. That is one of the cruelest parts of a missing person case. Without a body, families are stuck between grief and hope. They cannot fully mourn, but they also cannot stop wondering, where is she? What happened that night? And why has no one brought her home? By 2021, nearly 8 years after Victoria disappeared, James Prokopovitz went to trial. This became what people call a no-body murder case. That means prosecutors had to convince a jury that Victoria was dead, that she did not leave willingly, and that James was responsible, even though her remains had never been recovered. The defense argued that Victoria may have taken her own life. They pointed to her struggles and tried to create doubt about what happened, but prosecutors pushed back hard. They argued that Victoria could not have disappeared in that way and then somehow hidden herself forever. They pointed to the belongings she left behind, James's behavior, the affair, the lies, and the idea that someone had made sure Victoria would never be found. They also argued that James had access to places connected to his work where a body could have been disposed of in a way that made recovery difficult. For the jury, the question was heavy. Can you convict someone of murder when the victim's body has never been found? After hearing the evidence, the jury found James Prokopovitz guilty. In May of 2021, James was sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole. But even after the conviction, one painful truth remained. Victoria still had not been found. Her family had a verdict, but they still did not have her home. They still did not have the final answer they wanted most, where Victoria was. And that is what makes this case so heartbreaking. Justice in court does not always bring closure in the heart. A sentence can hold someone accountable, but it cannot give a family back the years they spent searching. It cannot answer every question. It cannot erase the pain of not knowing where your mother is. Victoria Prokopovitz's story is not just about a secret affair or a trial. It is about a woman whose family refused to let her be forgotten. It is about the way truth can take years to surface. And it is about a case that reminds us that even when there is no body, there can still be evidence, there can still be accountability, and there can still be a voice for the victim. She was loved, and her story still matters. Stay locked in. Real stories only.